brief morning announcements today. Just going to go over a few things and then we will get started with our reading today. I'd love to read a couple pages of our text of separate is never equal so that we can continue our study in that text and begin to talk about some ideas that are coming from that text and some themes that we see. But first things first, we're going to make sure that we are reciting and saying our Fairview Five. So, hey, it's one thing to say it. It's one thing to hear it. It's another thing to be about it and do it. So I challenge you in these last 2 days of the week here in this week that we are following the Fairview Five and doing those things each and every day. Today is also the last day of September. So why not finish the month of September strong and start our first day of October and bring in that fall weather, doing great things as scholars by following the Fairview Five. So that means number one, I'm actively listening to the speaker. Number two, I'm keeping my hands and my feet to myself. Number three, I'm cleaning up my area. Number four, I'm being kind to others with my words and my actions. And number five, I am doing my best. Notice how I turned the Fairview Five into me today, right? So you could say the same thing, right? Be kind to others with my words and actions. Do my best, clean up my area, right? So you want to really take those things to heart because that is what makes you an elite scholar here in the Eagle's Nest. So tomorrow is Friday, which means that you have one more day to become a Scholar of the Week. So Scholars of the Week are wearing their one cards. Scholars of the Week are following the Fairview Five. Scholars of the Week are wearing their mask at all times, not only over their mouth, but over their nose as well. So that is what Scholars of the Week do. So if you want to become a Scholar of the Week, make sure that you're following those things because you've got today before teachers begin to decide this week who really stood out inside of classes to become a Scholar of the Week. We're also going to be going through our next level championships tomorrow. So will those classrooms that have the belts right now, will they keep those belts? I don't know. So do your best in the hallway today. Make sure that you're also doing great in the cafeteria line. You know what you're ready to order. You get in line, you're ready to do that. And then also making sure that you're doing your best inside of your specials classes as well. So looking forward to Scholars of the Week tomorrow and also our next level champions tomorrow as well to see if those classrooms hold on to those titles. All right. So let's move right into our text today so I can cut you loose and you can have yourself a great day. So we've been reading Separate is Never Equal. And if you remember, right, the main character is Sylvia Mendez and her sisters and her brother and then also her family, right? And her dad, Mr. Mendez, we last left off. And so I'm going to summarize from this page, right, when Mr. Mendez was going out to get people to sign what was called a petition. Right. And if you know what a petition is, right, he wanted to evoke change or wanted to have change happen because if you remember the name of the elementary school, he wanted his children to be able to go to Westminster Elementary School, not Hoover Elementary School, because if you remember, Hoover Elementary School didn't have the same things as Westminster School. And he's like, well, wait a second, that's not fair. I think every child should have the same opportunity, right, to be able to experience a great education and experience greatness. So then, if you remember from yesterday, Mr. Mendez, he came across somebody by the name of David Marcus. Now, do you remember who David Marcus was? What job was he? Let's see if you remember. If you said lawyer, you're correct. David Marcus was a lawyer, right? So this was Mr. Mendez, and this was at a time period where they were segregated in pools and in public spaces. So he met David Marcus. And just to summarize before we keep reading, Mr. Marcus said, hey, have you thought about doing a lawsuit or getting people behind you to make sure that you could take this to the court, right? And so Mr. Mendez already created the Parents Association of Mexican American Children. So he was like, hey, I'm going to create this lawsuit, but I've got to be able to go around and get people to agree with me and believe in what I'm doing. And so that's where we left off yesterday. Remember, Sylvia said, I remember my mom working in the farm. She was cooking, she was cleaning, she was doing all the things because her dad was out traveling late at night and in the morning time to go and get people to sign his petition and to believe in what he was protesting for. So, all right, so let's read a couple pages today and get you going for today. It says, with the help of Mr. Marcus, remember Mr. Marcus was the lawyer, Mr. Mendez found and talked with other families who were dealing with segregation. One of them was the Estrada family. Mr. Estrada had fought in World War II. He had risked his life next to Americans of all races and backgrounds. But when he returned to America from the war, he found out that his children were not allowed to attend the school with white children. He said this was an injustice. It's just an injustice, he told Mr. Mendez. So the Estrada family joined the Mendezes and they created a case. And so did 3 more families. The families were from different school districts in Orange County. Westminster, that's where Sylvia lived, Garden Grove, El Modena, and Santa Ana. Mr. Marcus wanted to show that the segregation of students affected not only Sylvia and her brothers, but more than 5,000 children in the public school system all over Orange County. And so on March 2nd, 1945, Mr. Marcus went to the courthouse and filed the lawsuit. So here you can see a picture of Mr. Mendez meeting one of the families. That's the Estrada family, right? And we can infer that that's Mr. Estrada because it said that he was fought in World War II. And clearly this looks like a uniform from the Army, right? So he is shaking his hand, which we can infer means that they are agreeing on something or that they have some type of deal. And so Mr. Estrada and Mr. Mendez joined forces. And then this, of course, would be Mr. Mendez going to the court because he filed a lawsuit on March the 2nd. Let's read 2 more pages today and see how that lawsuit goes out. The trial. So first off, let's talk about a trial. So a trial is something that happens inside of a courtroom. So you've got your lawyers going back and forth. There's a judge there, and then there's a group called the jury, because the jury is the one that votes at the very end, and the judge on, hey, this is what's going to happen, or this is going to be the end result. So all of that is called a trial. So the trial was held at the courthouse in Los Angeles. Sylvia and her family dressed in their best clothes, and they sat in the courtroom to listen. The hearing lasted 5 days. Mr. Marcus called to the stand parents from different districts in Orange County and the superintendents from each district too. On the first day, Mr. Kent, the superintendent of the Garden Grove district, was questioned. He said that he sent children to the Mexican school to help them improve their English. That's a lie, thought Sylvia. Her English was just as good as the English of any of the children at Westminster, she thought to herself. Do you give the children any tests? Asked Mr. Marcus. Mr. Kent claimed he did. We do so by talking to them. That is another lie, Sylvia wanted to yell out, but no one had questioned her. They rejected her from Westminster School without asking her a thing. So we'll stop there today, but this is the courtroom, inside the courtroom, and this is when you are on the stand in a courtroom, right? This is where you are getting questioned by a lawyer, and then up here you'll also see the judge, but you can also see where these are the people that were sitting in watching the trial, and this would have been the Mendez family, and that's what Sylvia was saying, right? She's sitting there listening to all this, and she's like, wait a second, this is a lie. This didn't happen. I know that I wasn't able to go to Westminster School. So we will see how the trial ends up later this week. We'll read a little bit more tomorrow after we do Scholars of the Week, and then we'll finish out this text next week so we can see how Sylvia Mendez and her family's fight for desegregation ends up. So it's 7:38, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in action today. I hope that you have a fantastic day today in the Eagle's Nest. It is Thursday. It's time to get after it. 2 days left to make an impact this week, so make sure you're doing that. And scholars, remember to be great because you are great. Have an excellent day.